The most famous healing story ever told is actually about a sickness you've probably had your entire life. It lays out a psychological blueprint for how we escape the identities we didn't choose but have learned to live with. This ancient text describes a precise, step-by-step mechanism for breaking free from a self-concept that no longer serves you. And the story's most brutal warning is that the people who want you to stay blind are often the ones closest to you. The scene opens on a man who has been blind from birth. He's a fixture in his community, a known quantity. His identity is his condition. The disciples see him and ask Jesus a question that reveals how we think about our own limitations. They ask, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? This is the first trap. It's the search for a cause, for a narrative of blame. We do this constantly. I'm not a disciplined person because I was never taught it. I'm bad with money because that's how my family was. I'm socially anxious because of something that happened in school. The story we tell ourselves about the origin of our limitation is the very thing that cements it as our identity. The moment you find a reason for your cage, the cage becomes comfortable. It feels justified, logical even. Jesus' answer cuts right through this. He says, neither this man nor his parents sinned. He completely rejects the premise of their question. He uncouples the condition from the story of blame. The blindness isn't a punishment, it's a state, a circumstance. Then he says something that reframes the entire problem. He says the blindness exists so that the works of God could be revealed in him. In psychological terms, the limitation exists for the purpose of being overcome. It's a potential, the raw material for a transformation. Your anxiety, your procrastination, your self-doubt, it's just a state of being. It's a set of starting conditions waiting for an action. This is the first essential step. You have to stop seeing your limitation as a verdict on your past and start seeing it as an opportunity for your future. But then Jesus does something bizarre, something almost insulting. He spits on the ground, makes mud from the dust, and puts it on the man's eyes. Why the mud? Why make things physically worse before making them better? A God could just snap his fingers. Instead, he chooses an action that is gritty, earthy, and uncomfortable. He takes something that obscures vision, dirt, and puts it directly on the man's eyes. This act makes the blindness even more tangible, more unavoidable. The man can literally feel the weight of the mud on his eyelids. This is the second stage of breaking an identity. You have to make the problem concrete. You must stop talking about your limitation as an abstract concept and start engaging with it physically. For the person who avoids difficult conversations, it's writing down the exact words they need to say. For the procrastinator, it's sitting at the desk with the blinking cursor for 30 minutes, even if they write nothing. It's an act of leaning into the discomfort. You are forcing a confrontation with the thing you've been avoiding. The mud is the moment you stop treating your blindness as a story and start treating it as a physical problem to be solved. Then comes the instruction. Jesus tells him, go, wash in the pool of Siloam. The healing is a two-part process. The first part is the master's intervention. The mud, the second part, is the man's own action. The command is specific. It requires effort. It requires a journey. He has to navigate through a city, blind, with mud on his face, to a particular place. The healing depends entirely on his own agency. He has to walk the path himself. The man obeys. He goes. He washes. And he comes back seeing. The story could end here. It would be a simple, clean miracle. But this is where the real story begins. Because receiving sight was easy. Keeping it was the hard part. The man returns to his neighborhood, and the people who have known him his entire life don't rejoice. They become suspicious. They are confused. The text says, the neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar were saying, is this not the man who used to sit and beg? Some said it was him. Others said, no, but he is like him. Think about that. They would rather believe he's an imposter than accept that he is fundamentally changed. Your identity is a social contract. You being the blind man made sense to them. It was a stable part of their reality. They knew how to interact with you. They might have pitied you, helped you, or even defined themselves in opposition to you. Your healing breaks that contract. It introduces chaos into their world. It forces them to update their entire model of who you are, and by extension, who they are. This is the first test of any real change, the resistance from your social circle. The friends who say you've changed, as if it's an accusation. The family members who keep bringing up your past mistakes, trying to pull you back into the old identity they understood. The world prefers the version of you that is predictable, even if that version is suffering. The man's response is simple and powerful. He doesn't argue. He doesn't try to prove it. He just states his new reality. He says, "I am he." This is the first time he has to actively claim his new identity. It's a declaration, one that is immediately met with more questions, more doubt. They can't accept it, so they do what societies always do to people who change too much, too fast. They drag him before the authorities, the intellectual and spiritual leaders of the community. They represent the system, the established order, the rulebook. If the neighbors represent social pressure, the Pharisees represent something deeper. They represent the logic of the old identity. They are your own internal rationalizations, the inner critic that tries to invalidate your change. They begin their interrogation, and their first move is to find a flaw in the process. They learn the healing happened on the Sabbath, which was against their rules. "This man is not from God," they declare, "for he does not keep the Sabbath. This is what your own mind does." When you start to change, it will look for any procedural error to disqualify the new reality. You only went to the gym for 2 weeks, that doesn't count. You were just lucky in that presentation. You're still not a confident speaker. This new habit won't last. It tries to prove that the change is illegitimate, a violation of the old rules you lived by. But some of the Pharisees are conflicted. They ask, how can a man who is a sinner do such signs? And the text says there was a division among them. This is crucial. The moment you change, you create a division, first in the world around you, and then inside yourself. A part of you wants to believe in the new reality, while another part clings to the old logic. So they turn back to the only person who knows the truth. They ask the man who was blind, "What do you say about him since he has opened your eyes?" His answer shows his own understanding is growing. He simply says, "He is a prophet." He's no longer just describing what happened. He's starting to interpret it. He's building a new story around his new reality, but the authorities refuse to believe it. They are so committed to the idea that he was born blind, and therefore must remain blind, that they refuse to believe he was ever blind in the first place. This is the next layer of resistance. If people can't invalidate your change, they will try to invalidate your starting point. They will claim you were never really that bad off to begin with. You were never really an introvert. You weren't really addicted. You just had a bad habit. Your family wasn't that dysfunctional. This is a desperate attempt to shrink your transformation. If the distance you've traveled is small, then their world remains stable, so they call in the ultimate authorities on the man's old identity, his parents. The Pharisees bring the man's parents in for questioning. They ask them 2 things. Is this your son, who you say was born blind? Then how does he now see? The parents are terrified. They know that acknowledging the miracle could get them cast out of the synagogue, which meant social and economic ruin. Their response is a masterclass in deflection. They say, "We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind." They confirm the old identity. They confirm the starting point. But when asked about the change, they retreat. But how he now sees, we do not know, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He is of age. He will speak for himself. They throw their own son back to the wolves. They have a choice between protecting their son's new reality and protecting their own social standing. They choose themselves. This is perhaps the most painful stage of transformation. The people who are supposed to be your greatest allies, the ones who know your history best, can become the ones most threatened by your growth. Your change might reflect badly on them. It might question the environment they created. Your healing becomes an inconvenient truth they would rather ignore, so they validate your past suffering, but refuse to participate in your present freedom. He is of age, they say. It's the ancient version of "that's your journey. You are on your own." The man is truly alone now. His neighbors doubt him. His leaders condemn him. His parents abandon him. He has only one thing to stand on: his own experience. They call him in for a second interrogation. This time their tactic is different. They try to gaslight him. They say, "Give glory to God. We know that this man is a sinner." They are trying to create a split screen in his mind. They want him to hold 2 opposing ideas at once. A good thing happened to me, and the person who did it is bad. If they can get him to accept this contradiction, they can break his certainty. The man's reply is one of the most powerful statements in all of literature. He doesn't argue theology with them. He doesn't debate their premises. He cuts through all of it with the one thing they cannot take away from him. He says, "Whether he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know, that though I was blind, now I see." This is the anchor. This is the bedrock of a new identity. It is a simple, direct, undeniable statement of personal experience. It is immune to argument. It is immune to theory. It is immune to social pressure. Your own direct experience is the only authority that matters. The internal debate is over. He's no longer divided. He knows what he knows. This newfound certainty infuriates the Pharisees. They begin to mock him, trying to pull him back into his old inferior status. "You are his disciple, but we are disciples of Moses." But the man is no longer intimidated. His sight has given him clarity, and that clarity has given him courage. He starts to use logic against them, the very tool they used against him. He says, "Why, this is a surprising thing. You do not know where he comes from, and yet he opened my eyes." He points out the absurdity of their position. He is holding the proof of a great power, and they, the experts, are denying it because it doesn't fit their books. He is no longer just defending his experience, he is now championing it. He is explaining the new reality to the people who are trying to deny it. This is the final stage of integration. When you can articulate your transformation so clearly that you can teach it, you have fully embodied it. The authorities have no response to his logic, so they resort to their final weapon, exclusion. They attack his very being. They say, "You were born in utter sin, and would you teach us?" And they cast him out. They excommunicate him. The system that defined his entire life, the community that was his whole world, has officially rejected him. He paid the highest possible social price for his sight. This is the ultimate cost of true change. To become who you are meant to be, you may have to be cast out from the systems that are invested in you staying the same. You might have to leave the job, the friend group, the family dynamic that requires you to be small. The final test is whether you are willing to stand alone in your new truth. The story ends with a final quiet scene. Jesus hears that the man has been cast out. He finds him. This is the crucial point. The man was cast out by the old system, and he is found by the old author of his new life. Jesus asks him, "One last question. Do you believe in the Son of Man?" The man, who has gone from a passive beggar to a courageous debater, asks, "And who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" The man's final response is simple: "Lord, I believe." And he worshipped him. He has gone on a full journey, from physical healing to social defense to intellectual certainty, and finally to spiritual alignment. He didn't just get his sight back. He built an entirely new identity from the ground up, an identity so robust that it could withstand the pressure of his entire world, trying to crush it. The story is a roadmap. It predicts the exact sequence of resistance you will face when you decide to stop identifying with your limitations. First, you will face the doubt of your peers. Then, you will face the flawed logic of the system, both internal and external. After that, you will face the fear and abandonment of those closest to you. Finally, you will be cast out by the world that required your blindness. And at each stage, the only thing you have to stand on is the simple, direct knowledge of your own experience. The path out of a limiting identity is a lonely one. It requires you to trust your own sight, even when the rest of the world tells you that you are still in the dark. The final lesson is that when you are cast out from the world that was built on your limitation, you are finally free to enter the one that is built on your potential. You lose a community and you find a source, and that source always comes looking for the people who were brave enough to be cast out.